It's no secret that the Philadelphia School District is in trouble. Some say it is in a state of crisis, others say it is merely in a state of transition. Either way, one thing is clear. Funding is an issue for the district, and something has to be done about it. For those at the administration level, there are many tough decisions to be made. The decision as to whether or not a school should be shut down is among the most important that they make.
I think the state of education in Philadelphia really is just one of a year in, year out fight. I mean, it's and struggle. It's not a every year I've been a teacher, there's never been an assurance or a sense of stability that we can build on this for next year, because there's always new struggles, most of which are not of Philadelphia's making.
I think without a doubt inadequate funding is a core issue for the district right now. I mean, the level of services in public schools is at the bare minimum and below that in a lot of cases.
Well, I think the city has more building and capacity than it can use anymore. The school population has shrunk over the last several decades, and it's expensive to maintain, and so I think while they're painful, they're necessary.
More recent school closures, so the ones in, I think it was 2012 and 2013, were as part of a facilities master planning process, and that process was initially focused on the condition of the facility, so looking at the condition of the facility and the utilization of the facility. So is this a school that was built for 2,000 students where we currently only have 200 students, for instance? Is this a school where the structural conditions are so decrepit that it would cost more money than we could afford to repair the school, and so we should close it for that reason? That was sort of the initial lens on school closures.
If we keep maintaining buildings that aren't efficient to operate, it's going to take away from the ability of the school district to support the operating needs of the buildings that are open, teachers, nurses, et cetera.
It was certainly a priority for Dr. Height and the School Reform Commission to try to make sure that students, if their school was closed, would be going to a school that was at least as strong academically. And there was a concerted effort for the receiving schools, these are schools that had students who were coming in from a closed school, make sure there were additional resources and supports. One thing that we saw, we were looking at some data the other month about graduation rates. Many of our schools that had the highest increase in graduation rates last year were receiving schools. And that, all credit is due to the school leaders and the teachers and the broader school communities that welcomed in students who were coming from other schools. So a really hard and wrenching process, but one where people have really sort of stood up and rallied to support students.
You can tell from the kind of reaction that neighborhoods erupt with when schools are going to be closed, that they are almost, to some extent, a center of community life. They're an important asset for communities. And they also raise safety concerns for parents who think that their children now are going to have to go somewhere unfamiliar, a longer distance to school and so forth. So the people who are directly affected care a lot about it, and that's what makes it a tough issue.
I think school closings they're not only an evil, at times they are necessary, and for me the concern is less about whether they are necessary or not, and more about how do we as a society altogether decide when and where we have to take this measure. I mean, if schools are sort of a family, this is a form of, this can either be a death or this can be a breakup.
A school shutting its doors may be necessary for the district to continue to function, but a school shutting its doors is not nearly the same thing as a store closing its doors. For many, schools are the social hub of a community, and it's not easy to watch as they're boarded up.
There's only one way to feel about, shutting down schools. I mean, you'd rather shut down schools but open more jail cells, which is really the reason why people would go to jail more often is because schools are shut down. You know what I mean? Nobody would ever have any option of, you know, graduating and trying to go to college. Everybody would, you know, kids would be in the streets. You know, it's terrible. It's really bad.
It's not cool at all that they closed down so many schools, because in those neighborhoods, most of those schools didn't get along with each other. So when one was closed and the students had to migrate to the other school, it caused a lot of problems like fights. And a lot of my friends, when their schools closed, they stopped going like they just stopped going to school. They was like, man, they closing down the school systems. What is left for me to do?
That's going to be really a hurt piece for the communities. Not only a hurt piece for the communities, but for the youth. Like, I want to work with the youth. That's why I'm attending school here. That's going to not only hurt for the youth, but, you know, like the communities, as I said, because the community is going to have more crime. It's going to be more chaotic, and I feel as though the only thing they're going to start doing is building more prisons, more juvenile facilities, would take away from people education.
Good evening. My name is Kia Hinton. I'm a public school parent and a leader with Action United. Our organization is here to stand with parents, students, teachers, and the community to oppose the closing of Kensington Urban High School.
My name is Essence White. I'm a student at Kensington Urban Education Academy. I'm a young youth leader with Young United for Change. I'm here today because the school district is trying to close and combine my school and Kensington Business into one big high school.
My name is Larry Arata. I'm a teacher at Kensington International Business High School. The obvious question for the SRC is why not remain true to the large body of research that shows that smaller schools are better?
And that is what I have to ask you. Why? Why do you make promises but don't keep them? You say for your future that you shut us up to fail or just leave us stranded like a sick baby chicken abandoned by its mother, leaving us helpless and defenseless against the world we can't crawl into. Why? Ask us what we want, what we need to survive, yet it hasn't come. What are you doing for us? You say you want us to succeed, but when you give us the answer, you give us some false ears to our pleadings. Aren't we a democracy to make sure you know what we're saying? And if you words aren't enough to budge, then think. What if we were your own children or your own family members? Take this with you when you go wrong. Think about exactly what you'll be doing for us in our community.
The district constantly has had this concept of closing schools that are failing without properly resourcing them. So pretty much setting them up to fail and then become, is all to me a larger attack to privatize our entire district.
I mean, some of the school closings, like, I really don't see why the state is not funding schools, because you're overcrowding schools and kids from different areas want to fight kids from different areas. So it's like, I mean, it's bad. It's just a bad situation, period.
They're cheating students more by shutting them down, because for the past few years, teachers been getting fired, laid off, so we haven't been learning much. By them closing the schools, it's giving us less of a chance to learn anything.
It just kills me because they're shutting down schools but building more jails. And it just doesn't make no sense at all. It doesn't make sense at all. They should put more time and effort in building our schools than building jails. If we build more schools, maybe we wouldn't have as many felons as we do, you know? And that's something that we really need to put a lot of time and effort into.